Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we are looking at the Orion Weiß in 38mm from Nomos Glasshütte. And just before we get to looking at the watch itself, I would just like to take a minute to show you how the watch is presented. And for that matter, the majority of Nomos watches, I believe, come in this manner. So here we have a nice blacked out wooden box with Nomos Glasshütte written on it. It is apparently made out of salvaged wood, which is nice and sustainable. Now if we press down on this button here, it opens up and we're immediately greeted with a cleaning cloth that has Nomos Glasshütte on it. And we also have the paperwork to guarantee the instructions in this nice little envelope here. Just a quick word on the box. It's a nice box. It's definitely not, the most expensive or extravagant looking ones that some other, brands offer. However, Nomos is in some cases half the price of these other kind of watches and is very good value for the money. So they are, I would say, cutting down on cost in some areas, and I'd say the box is definitely one area. However, I'd rather it be the box than other things. See here, it's already a bit scratched there, and actually this hinge here came out, so I had to hammer it back in, and it doesn't always close the way it should. But then again, it's just the box. It's still nice and smartly presented. But I just thought, I'd talk about that. So now, why don't we get on to the watch. So let's talk about the watch itself. Again, this is the Orion Weiß in 38mm. It retails in the UK for £1,920, and in the US that's $2,560. So the first thing that stands out with this watch is how minimalistic it is. Now, Nomos is known for its minimalistic designs, but I would say out of every watch the brand has, this is probably the most minimalistic watch you can find. The dial is silver plated and the indices are all in steel. You can see here there is a second subdial. If we go in detail, you see there's a nice guilloche subdial there, and you can see how nice this dial really is. It's almost sparkles in the light. I don't have the best lighting here, unfortunately. It's quite dark outside, but it still gives a nice representation. Nomos Glasshütte, made in Germany, and that's basically it. I mean, there is a 38mm Orion model, so not Orion Weiß, just a standard Orion, and that I believe has blue hands and actually golden indices markers. So that gives a bit more color to the dial itself. However, as I said, I think this takes the minimalism to one step further, and what you get really is just an extremely elegant watch and something of a chameleon. So you can wear it as a dress watch on this Nomos cordovan leather black strap here, which is a very nice shell cordovan strap. But because of how there's no color whatsoever on the dial, you can put any kind of strap on here and it will just work. I've had it on some NATO straps, some colorful NATO straps, some more kind of suede, beige straps. I'll put some pictures so you can see it. And another thing that actually was quite remarkable is that this watch, even though it's considered a dress watch, has drilled lugs. So that makes strap changes very easy. So in the morning, if you feel like something different before work, just takes less than a minute to change the strap, and you can also see that there's drilled lugs on the actual buckle. So that means if you have some other straps from a third party, you can simply put this buckle onto those straps very easily, and I have done that. So that's great. So now onto the movement itself. This is the alpha movement. It is a manual wound, about 43 hours power reserve, and again, it's actually a very nicely decorated movement. You can see there's the glass hood stripes there. On the base plate, you can just about see the perlage. It's just, a really beautiful movement, actually. Again, remarkable for the price point of this watch. Now, there is a lot of debate about Nomos movements and whether they are considered in-house movements or not. So maybe I could just take a few minutes to talk about that. So Nomos started in 1990, and from there it started using movements from other manufacturers and would import parts from Switzerland, as well as buy some parts from the other neighboring glass hood watch companies. So prior to 2005, the most kind of common movement that you would find in a Nomos watch was the Perser 7001 movement. And essentially after 2005, they started making all their movements in-house. Now, where the debate, sort of comes in with people claiming it's not true in-house is, well, the Alpha specifically here is based on that Peugeot 7001 movement that they used to use prior to 2005. So essentially what that means is the design is not an in-house design. They've based it on someone else's movement. However, the parts inside the movement the majority of them are made in their factory in Glashütte. There's a few hairsprings and a few other components which they don't make themselves. However, there are other movements they make, such as some of their automatic movements that I believe are, completely in-house made and designed in-house. And they even have what they call the swing system, which if you go on their website, they indicate every watch that has that. And that's their in-house escapement. And they actually claim that they're the only watch company that makes an in-house escapement, which I'm not sure if that's true, but if it is, that's a pretty significant thing. But this particular movement, the Alpha, which is actually their oldest movement and their most common movement, is, I would consider it in-house. If you're an absolute purist, then maybe not so, but still a great movement nonetheless. So back to the watch. Perhaps I forgot to mention, lug to lug, this is 48 millimeters, so it actually wears quite large, and this is a complaint of many people with Nomos watches, is that their lugs are absolutely, well, they're quite long. You can see there's a massive gap between the strap and the actual watch case there. So they do wear larger than the diameter suggests. Lug width is 19 millimeters, but you can fit 20 millimeter straps on there, no problems, because of the drilled lugs. It's very easy. On the crown, you can just about see there's a Nomos engravement there. And why don't I put it on the wrist to give you an idea of the size. So this watch wears terrifically. Now, I have extremely small wrists. My wrists are under 6.5 inches, and I would say this still works for me. So this is actually, 38 millimeters is the largest size in the Orion line. They go down to 33 being the smallest, and 35 millimeters being the in-between. As you can see, even though I have ridiculously small wrists, probably smaller than all of yours, the largest size, 38 millimeters, still works. Now, what makes this watch, special, I would say, is that it wears or gives the illusion that it's actually a much larger watch. And that's essentially because of the very small bezel, which makes the actual dial much bigger than perhaps some dials in a 40 millimeter diameter case. So this gives the illusion that the watch is bigger than it is, while still, fitting very nicely on smaller wrists such as mine. And I would say the longer lugs are no problem because they curve very nicely around the wrist. It's also a very thin watch, as you can see. It's only 8.86 millimeters thick, so again, no problem, can easily fit it under your cuff like so. And it's extremely comfortable. Just quickly, I'd like to draw to your attention the buckle here. Now, this is something that, for me, sort of stood out as looking a bit cheaper than the rest of the watch. Specifically the, for lack of a better word, the arm here is very loose and moves around. So when you shake the watch, it sort of bangs on here and just seems very, flimsy, for lack of a better word, especially when I compare it to some of the buckles of other watches. But I mean, that's a minor detail. Again, the actual watch itself is, flawless and extremely well made for the price, and gives, brands that charge double, triple the price of this watch a run for their money. Just quickly on the strap itself. So when you're ordering from Nomos, you can actually specify what strap length you want. So they do small, medium, and large. This is actually a small strap. They come standard on a medium. However, again, because of the long lugs, you may find that the medium might be a little bit too long, and you might kind of be on the sort of last hauls here. As you can see myself, on this small strap, I'm still, on the third last haul here. So I would definitely advise you not to get a large size if you think you have larger wrists. I would say a medium should do you fine, again, because the lugs are so long. So all in all, I think this is a terrific watch, and the value is just unbeatable for what you're paying for. Moreover, if you were to get a smaller size, so a lot of their models come in a different variations. So this particular watch you can get in 35 millimeter size. Nomos even do some watches, the campus watches, that start at £1,000, and they will have this exact same movement. Now this particular watch is a bit pricier because of the size, and also the fact that I've gone with a sapphire case back. So if you wanted to, you could get the 35 millimeter version of this watch with a stainless steel case back, and that would be, £400 cheaper for essentially the same watch in a smaller form factor. or you can, you know, if you like looking at your movement and you think that's worth the premium, then absolutely go ahead. I think it is. I got this particular watch pre-owned, and you know, the nice thing and maybe not so nice thing about Nomos is because it's still a relatively new brand that's still gaining attraction. It doesn't retain value that well. So I was able, for example, to get this pre-owned watch, which was bought in July of 2017, so it's only, you know, 6 months old. I was able to get this for, I think, around 1,200, so saving of £700 right there, and it's, you know, virtually a new watch. So, you know, definitely pre-owned. You can even get these at an even, you know, bigger bargain than they already are, but even just ordering directly from them, you're already, you know, getting a great deal and value for money. So that's all I have to say on this watch. I can highly recommend it, and that goes as well for their other lines. I believe they have 12 other models, which are all, you know, in quite a similar fashion, but all have their slight differences. The majority of them do also have the manual wind movement, but as well they have some models with their new automatic movement, which is actually a very nice movement as well. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. And hopefully I'll be doing some more reviews. I have a few other watches in my collection that I would like to look at. But until then, please subscribe and like, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks very much.